Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to talk about 2024, the year in review. Been a pretty nice year for Doctor Who, especially right here towards the end of the year. We've had a lot going on. But I thought we would look back at 2024 and talk about some of the highs and lows of the season. Getting my thoughts organized. Let's start off with Season 15 from the collection range. Another Tom Baker season. It's always nice to add another season to the collection range. Any season, but it's always especially nice to add another Tom to it. We now have 5 out of Tom's 7. And the Season 15 art looks fantastic. That's one of the best ones. It has this energy to it that none of the other box sets quite have, where it's just like you're taking a snapshot of the Doctor right in the middle of running away from an explosion. I love it. I enjoy Season 15. I like all of Tom's seasons. It has its highs, it has its lows. I was happy to get it. It's nice to get another season in the Williams era, because I like the Williams era. I like all of Tom's seasons. I love the updated effects for Horror of Fang Rock. I think they look good. I do consider it the definitive version of the story. I know some people prefer the original effects. Horror of Fang Rock's always been my favorite of the season. Really good story, really good guest cast, really good main cast. Just a wonderful job by Uncle Terrence. Literally, the only main complaint I ever really had was the effects. There is one or two little plot points, but they're minor quibbles. It was really the effects, which were fine, but could have used a little touching up. I'm glad they did. I'm glad Horror of Fang Rock got the love in this box set. It got the 5.1 surround sound, and it got a beautiful making of, I believe, as well. And then I love the updated effects. I love the new design of the Rutan, which is even on the cover of the box set in the enemies. I think it's the first time they've used an updated effect for the enemies on there. It looks really good. I like that effect a lot. I tend to like all of the other updated effects. I'm fine with the original effects, but the updated version is my definitive version now. It just makes a 9.5 out of 10 story a 9.9 out of 10 story, and I love that. We also have the Sunmakers this season, which I love. It's satire done right. It's Robert Holmes. I have a lot of fun with the Sunmakers, even though fun may not be the right word. It's dealing with some pretty serious subject matter, but it is done in this kind of tongue-in-cheek way in its execution sometimes. And then we also have, I forget Michael's last name, the guy who plays Villa in Blake 7, Michael. I know his name is Michael. We have him in this episode too. Actually, I think it was him being in this episode that's part of why he got cast as Villa in Blake 7. Image of the Finn Doll is another good one, another strong story. Much like Horror of Fang Rock, they could fit right in the Hinchcliffe era, the kind of holdovers for the Hinchcliffe era. Very good. Not quite as good as Horror of Fang Rock. It does have I do have a couple quibbles with it, but it's still a very strong story. And then we have Underworld, which I find very underrated. I know a lot of people wanted Underworld to get some updated effects. I think what they really mean is they just wanted the CSO cleaned up. The actual model work for Underworld is really good. Some of the best in classic Doctor Who, certainly some of the best in 70s Doctor Who. The model work in the bookending episodes 1 and 4 of Underworld is fantastic. I cannot give it enough credit. I really feel like I think the memory cheats, as J&T says, and people remember Underworld worse than it is, or they just know it by reputation. But the model shots in the bookending episodes is really good. Yes, the CSO is rough, but we know, if you know anything about that story, you know it was the budget. The rapid inflation that year, the budget, that's the only way they could have done it. And considering they were exploring a new technology trying to make it work, it looks a bit rubbish, but it's fine. Plus, I actually enjoy the story. It's a nice reimagining of Jason and the Argonauts. I think it does that well. Plus, I love the effect of the laser blast, the kind of green-blue laser blast. I think that's a pretty neat effect. I don't think those laser blasts needed updating. And for Prowl to say that, yeah, we know how Prowl likes his updated laser blast. But the original laser blasts in this story hold their own really well. So Underworld's very underrated for me. The only 2 weak points for me are the Invisible Enemy and the Invasion of Time, which thankfully both had DVD upgrades. They had optional updated effects on their DVD releases, which have carried over to the box set. And that does help them both. The Invisible Enemy I don't really get into that one, but that's more of the story. I just don't get into the story. I love the introduction of K9. I also like the actor playing K9's inventor, owner. I like the actor playing him, and I like the character. And then I like having Michael Sheard back. Michael Sheard's in so much Doctor Who, and of course he's also Admiral Ozzel in Empire Strikes Back, that that I'm always happy to see him. That always does perk me up a little. So that's one thing I do like about the episode. And the updated effects do help it. I do like the updated effects. It's just the story doesn't do much for me. Some of the CSO work when they're inside the Doctor, when the other Doctor and Leela are inside the Doctor, looks a little ropey. Some of it looks all right. Some of it looks ropey. And then the little creature thing, the germ that gets bigger, looks terrible. It's just realized really badly. Although I do think it's John Leeson voicing it, which is neat, but it's realized badly. And then the Invasion of Time is probably the weakest of the season. You can just tell the budget ran out. Like, the story is not a big deal for me. I do feel like it would have made a better 4-parter. The story's not the best in the world. It's not the worst in the world, but it's not the best in the world. But it is my least favorite Tom Baker finale, and a lot of it's just the budget is gone. You can tell the budget's gone. The original version looks rough. The updated effects help it. I will admit the updated effects do punch it up a little bit. Oddly enough, the TARDIS interior scenes don't bother me like they used to. And they cleaned up really well considering, even though the original film elements survived, they didn't go back for them on the box set because I believe they had faded. So they did just use the ones they had scanned, I think, for the DVD master. But they still cleaned up really nice. They still look good on the box set. And oddly enough, they looked good enough that for some reason they just didn't bother me like they used to. It's a lot of the other lack of budgets that really hurt this one for me. I just don't get into the Invasion of Time. But overall, I do enjoy season 15. I liked the extras, the behind the sofa and all that came with it. The making of for Horror of Fang Rock. I always love listening to Louise Jameson talk. She is a stunningly attractive lady. It's not very often I will see somebody in their 70s that just still looks ravishing. But she does. She just aged so well. She still looks stunning to me. I don't know what it is. Something about that smile of hers. Even in the little mini episode that accompanied the announcement, to me, she just still looks stunning. I hope she sees this video so she knows that. I don't just mean she was stunning then. She's still stunning to me. And she's a fantastic actress. And I'm glad she's doing really well on, is it EastEnders she's on now? I know it's one of the popular shows in Britain. I think she's on now and doing really well at. But I really appreciated her coming back for that trailer. And plus, Leela is, another reason I like season 15 is Leela is one of my favorite companions. She's like my second favorite companion, I think, when I ranked them, with Sarah being my favorite. And I think Leela was number 2 on that list. She's easily in my top 5. She's amazing. I love Leela. And part of it's just Louise just is so good as that character. She really is. She just nails Leela. She just gets Leela, which I really like. So season 15 was a huge hit for me. I was happy to get it. We pretty much went into season 1 after that, which is a mixed bag for me. But, you know, we got the first 2 episodes right there in a row, which was a mixed bag for me because I didn't like Space Babies. I just didn't like Space. There were aspects of Space Babies I liked. One of the things I liked immediately, and even in the Christmas special before that, Church on Ruby Road, but especially in Space Babies, I love the chemistry between 15 and Ruby. I feel like Shooty and Millie and 15 and Ruby have really good chemistry. They go off each other really well. They make a really good TARDIS team. I really liked them together. Space Babies itself was pretty terrible and dumb in so many ways, which I've talked about before. I'm not going to go into, but I didn't really care about it overall. Like I said, there were little things I liked about it, but overall I didn't care for it. But Devil's Court I liked. It wasn't like the greatest Doctor Who episode ever, but I did like it. I thought it was good. I'm not saying great, but good. I didn't like the Beatles that have like no masculinity in them at all and didn't look at all like the Beatles. But I thought Jinx Monsoon was fantastic as, I forget the name of the character she's playing. Maestro, is that it? Maestro? She's great as Maestro, though. I really liked her as Maestro. I thought she's over the top in ways, but that's a perfect fit for that character. I think that character is supposed to be that kind of over the top. I think she's leaning into that over the top exactly at the right level she needs to. And that's the sign of a good actor or actress, whichever one she prefers to go by. I think I think she played that part really, really well. And then I loved the little homage to Pyramids of Mars when Ruby sees the destroyed city, which mirrors the alternate 1980 and Pyramids of Mars, which of course played into the season later, but I noticed it at the time and was like, yes. I liked The Devil's Cord. And then we really got on a string of good adventures for season 1. For me, I like about 4 out of the 8 season 1 stories, but they were all right there in a row. I liked Devil's Cord. Then we got Boom, which is about the same. I thought it was good without being great. I thought it was good. I liked the concept of the Doctor stuck on a landmine and not able to do so. That's a neat idea. It's those kind of good ideas Moffat has. And I thought it was done really well. Like when she's telling him, well, it's going to be tricky. And he's like, it'll be a moment, yeah. I like that. I did like that. But then we got 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble, my 2 favorites of the season. And I love those episodes. I just recently did my video about 10 really good post-Capaldi Doctor Who episodes every Doctor Who fan should see. And 2 of the ones in there were 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble. I love those. Those are phenomenally good. And especially considering they're both Dr. Light episodes. And I don't mean that as any kind of shot at Shudigatwa. It's nothing against him. Like I said, he does a lot of good things in the role. But I just love those episodes. I love the concepts. I love the ideas. I love how they're executed. It's just that both episodes are a perfect storm of everything coming together. Really good casting, really good directing, really good writing, really good production. Just everything coming together. Millie Gibson really steals the show in 73 Yards. She does such a phenomenal job practically carrying that episode on her shoulders. I mean, the other guest cast that are in there, like the actress playing her adopted mother, she's very good in that role as well. And then what little bit we get of Kate Stewart, she's good in that. Jenna's always good. And then I love Dot and Bubble. The actress who played, was it Callie, is that her name? That plays Lindy. I feel like pretty much most of the weight of that episode rides on her and us convincing us of everything that the creators of the show want us to think about her. How we roll our eyes at her at first, like, a millennial or a Zoomer or a Gen Alpha or whatever your generation would call a younger generation. And then slowly start to root for her as we see her kind of growing as a person, we think. You start rooting for her. Hey, she's learning, she's getting better, to the ultimate realization that, no, she's a terrible person. And, of course, having that emotional gut punch and turning on her where you don't want anything to do with her because she's just a horrible person. And I feel like Callie executes that well. Executes that so well as Lindy. So a lot of that is riding on her performance. And that's done well with the writing, the directing, and her performing. And, of course, Millie and Shooty are great in that as well, especially right there at the end. Shooty Gatwa just kills it. Even though he's not in the episode much, the little bit of time we get with him, especially there at the end with that final confrontation, he just kills it. He kills it so well. He is just phenomenal. Like, I remember watching that scene and being like, wow, this guy's really the Doctor. He's nailing it. And he did nail that scene. So I was really on a high coming off of Dot and Bubble. But then we got Rogue. And I couldn't stand Rogue. One, I'm not a big fan of the Doctor in relationships to begin with. No, any kind of relationship. You know, whether it be Tin and Rose, for example. As I get older more and more, I like my more asexual, platonic friendship, classic Doctor Who Doctor with Doctor companion dynamic. That's just what I like. And keeping in mind that the guy is literally thousands of years old. You know, you look at David Tennant's Doctor and he's like 900 and Rose is like 19. And everybody's okay with it. And I finally figured out it's because he looks young. Imagine if it was the first Doctor. Imagine if it was William Hartnell making out with Billie Piper. Would it still be okay even though William Hartnell's Doctor's like 150 years younger? Or more, who knows with the way they do the Doctor's age. But because he looks young, it's okay. That's a whole nother tangent. I don't really like the Doctor in relationships. But also the fact that the relationship overpowers the plot of the story. The bird people feel like an afterthought. Also, I don't like the way their costumes are done for most of them. Like, the main female one, the kind of leader, she looks good. But the rest of them, it just looks like the budget was gone or something. Or they used it on something else. I don't know what, but something else. I just felt like the actual plot played second fiddle to the romance, and that just irked me. Now, the actual actor playing Rogue, for the record, does a great job. But yeah, I didn't care for that episode at all. And then we got The Legend of Ruby Sunday, which was basically just an episode of build-up for the final, which that reveal of Sutekh was a great reveal, to be fair. And, Gabriel Wolf, Gabriel Wolf. My heart was a-bumping when I first, and I think we can succeed. And I'm over there going, that voice sounds familiar. And as I'm listening more and more, I'm sitting there going, is that Gabriel Wolf? Is that Gabriel Wolf? Is that Gabriel Wolf? I mean, my reaction video is actually up on my Patreon. You can see it. I got to check the end credits. Oh my God, that's Gabriel Wolf. I love Gabriel Wolf. I'm so happy they got Gabriel Wolf back. It's like 91 years old and they got Gabriel Wolf back. I love that. Unfortunately, Empire of Death was awful. It was so disappointing. One of the worst Doctor Who episodes of all time. Not the worst, to be fair, not the worst, but one of the worst. It was just, I think more than anything, it was just disappointing. And it just, instead of the season going out on a bang, the season goes out on a whimper. Because I picked up on early on in the episode that it was just going to be a big reset button. Just like the end of Series 3. And I love Series 3. It's my favorite series of modern Doctor Who. But I don't like those big reset buttons where they just fix everything. I realized very quickly that it's just going to be a big reset. And so there's no stakes. There's no stakes at that point for me. And of course, everyone survives. It just... And then the way they beat Sutekh is weird. The fact Sutekh was still alive, the way they did Sutekh still alive is weird. The redesign of Sutekh looks weird. It looks like Scrappy-Doo. And also, it looks like Scrappy-Doo on acid. And then the reason for why they did the redesign is once again another example of Russell T. Davies seeing a problem where there was no problem. Again, it's the Davros thing all over again, or the clothes regenerating for Dr. 14 all over. It's just that all over again. Like, there's a lot of things that would be less problematic if Russell just didn't talk about them. It's Russell trying to explain himself that makes it worse a lot of times. This was another one of those times. Yeah, just Empire of Death really left me feeling after the season. That's kind of how I was for season 1. But I do have to understand that I think Shuckle was a good actor. I don't like a lot of the characteristics of the 15th Doctor, or at least some of them. But my problems aren't with Shuckle's performance. A lot of it's just the way he's written. The crying all the time. The crying all the time. Does get a little repetitive. Like, if he just did it every now and then, it would actually have a really good emotional impact. But when he's doing it multiple times in an episode, it's just, crap, he's doing it again. So season 1 was a mixed bag for me. I think you had 2 phenomenal episodes, 2 good episodes, and 4 not good to bad episodes. That's how I feel about it, which is about half and half since it's 8 episodes. And then we had the Celestial Toymaker animation come out, which I surprisingly really enjoyed. I was keeping an open mind about it anyway, but I enjoyed it even more than I thought I would, especially the color version. I actually prefer the animation in color because of the surreal nature of it. Like, that 3D animation would not work for most stories. It wouldn't. I would find it a little disappointing. It works very well for Celestial Toymaker, though, being that kind of fantasy, surreal style story, kind of like The Mind Robber. It actually really works there with everything looking a little disproportionate with the way some of the characters look. It fits. I like the liberties taken because the original production of the Toymaker, we can tell from telesnaps in the surviving episode, the budget just wasn't there. It was a great idea. The idea of the Celestial Toymaker behind it is it's like the Web Planet, you know? Great idea, great ambition, don't have the budget to pull it off. Like, imagine if most of Web Planet was missing and they animated it. You could do so much more with an animated version of Web Planet and really make that story pop. Can I trade Web Planet for some episodes of Dalek Master Plan, please? Power of the Daleks, please. Evil of the Daleks, please. And the Celestial Toymaker's like that. I like the fact that instead of trying to stick to the stories, they take the creative liberty approach, what I typically call the Macroterra approach. Although they go even beyond Macroterra in this, and they do their own thing with it. They do reimagine it, which works for this story like it did with Macroterra. I'm not saying that would work for every story. It works well with this story because you can do so much more when you let your imagination off the leash. And I like how the toys in this are reimagined, like how the booth is reimagined as the car, how the cards are reimagined as playing cards, how the dolls are reimagined as different types of dolls with buttons, and the toy soldier looks like an actual toy soldier. I love that. That was very good. And then the animation just works for me. I like the things with the toy maker growing larger and shrinking, really having control over his dominion. I have a couple things I could nitpick, but I enjoy it. And I enjoy the recon of it's a little rough to get through. I love the surviving episode 4, though. Michael Goff's just amazing. I love the fact that Michael Goff is so good just with his voice, that even in the animation, just how good he is as a toy maker really shows through, because it's what he's doing with his voice that is so good. Same thing with Hartnell. Dodo's very annoying in this. That's not the fault of the animation, of course. That's just Dodo's very annoying in this. You just want to... If I was Steven, I think I'd... I don't like how Dodo's written in this. Steven really is the common sense one in this. And he's the realist and she's the optimist. And I still don't know how she didn't die in that chair, the freezing chair. But I liked the animation. The black and white version's fine. I prefer the color version. In this particular case, I just feel like it really makes the animation come alive. So I was pleasantly surprised by how much I really liked the animation. The actual steelbook itself is only okay, but the animation, it's great. One of the better animations. Much better than the Web of Fear episode 3. And I wouldn't mind seeing more 3D animations, though for the more realistic stories, they are going to have to improve those graphics for me. We'll talk more about 3D animated stories later in the video. Next, we had, I believe the next thing I can think of really coming was the announcement for season 25, which I think had everybody excited, especially me, because I had stated in videos before that I wanted at least one story in season 25 to get updated effects, because none of the McCoy stories had gotten updated effects in the Blu-ray box sets. Now, season 26 had the updated effects that Battlefield and Curse of Fenric had before carried over, which was nice. But they hadn't gotten any brand new ones for the box set. And then season 24 didn't have any new ones for the box set. So I really wanted at least one in season 25 to get them. So at least one story would get updated effects. They really went all out. All 4 stories got updated effects. Even if Silver Nemesis, Greatest Show in the Galaxy didn't really need them. Greatest Show in the Galaxy's original effects are very good. But I love the fact that you have so many different ways you can watch these stories. You can watch the extended special editions, which are really nice. You can watch the original versions. You can watch the original versions with the optional updated effects, the broadcast version with the updated effects. And then you have Silver Nemesis, which also has the VHS release, and then also has the Omnibus, which I've actually watched the Omnibus. My review for that keeps getting pushed back, but it's coming. I really enjoyed it, actually. I just love everything. They really packed that set out, much like they did with the Season 20 set. You have all of these extras, all the behind the sofa. There's a lot in that Season 25 set, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was happy to get the release of it in late October, which mine came in November, because I'm in the States and it takes forever to get here. But I really liked that box set. I liked the art on it a lot. The background to it really pops. And then I enjoyed being able to see alternate versions of these stories. I love the updated effects for Remembrance of the Daleks. That was the one I wanted to get them the most. Well, several reasons, but one, the laser blasts just weren't up to par for me. They looked all right for their time, but they weren't up to par for me. Again, we know how Prowl is about his updated laser effects. So I really wanted Remembrance to get some updated laser effects. And it did. And they are amazing. But the other updated effects are really good too. So I really enjoy watching that. That's the definitive version of Remembrance. Now, Happiness Patrol, I really like how the updated effects for it kind of give it a different feel. I don't have a definitive version of Happiness Patrol. I like both. I enjoy the special edition and I enjoy the original edition. I mean, Happiness Patrol is my favorite story of the season. It's really good. It's great satire. I still need to watch the broadcast version with the updated effects sometime, see if I like that. It was nice to get some updated effects for Silver Nemesis. I like Silver Nemesis a lot. I think it's underrated. It is a generic brand Remembrance of the Daleks, really, but I still enjoy it and think it's a good story. And then we have Greatest Show, which is my least favorite of the season and probably McCoy's most overrated story. But it gets better as it goes out. The first 2 episodes don't do a lot for me. As a matter of fact, I flat out hate episode 1. But episodes 3 and 4 really pick up, with episode 4 being really good. So it's a story that really sticks that landing, which means a lot for me. So I was happy to get season 25. And of course, we completed the Sylvester McCoy era. We have a Doctor's era complete in the collection, TV movie notwithstanding. So that was kind of neat, and I enjoyed that. And then we had a lot of things really happening here at the end of the year. We had the announcement of the War Games in color, the edited down 90-minute cut of the War Games in color, which the trailer for that looked really good. I was curious to see what they were going to do with it. I had really liked the Daleks in color. I actually prefer it over the original version of the Daleks, but just because I feel the original version of the Daleks drags. But I kind of figured the new version of War Games I probably wouldn't like as much as the original, because I love the original War Games. Even at 10 parts, I think it's actually paced very well. I tend to love the pacing of the War Games. To me, it's not just 9 episodes of them running around, and then you get to the good episode with the Time Lords. That's not how I think of it. I think it's a really good story. I think the first 9 episodes are the story of the War Games, and then the 10th episode is finishing that up, and then the trial. But I think they're all good episodes. I like the guest cast in this a lot. Anytime Philip Maddox shows up in Doctor Who, I'm happy. I mean, that's another reason I love the Cushing movies, because he's in the Dalek Invasion of Earth. Philip Maddox, is that how you say his name? I think I got it right. I like him. He's really good. I love when he shows up in Doctor Who. So I like him as the Warlord. The guy playing the War Chief is great. Whether you like kind of what they did with him in that edit or not. I do think the actual actor playing him is good. I don't know if he's still around anymore. I mean, it's been, it's 1960. It's been a really long time. I mean, we're talking almost 60 years here. So he's probably not still around anymore. But he did a really good job as the War Chief. I really liked him. And I could see him being an earlier version of the Master. I'm not saying I would want him to be, because I rather like that being left ambiguous myself. I actually enjoy that being ambiguous, but I could see it. I could see why people would think that, and I do enjoy the scenes with him and when him and Troughton interact in the original version and the edited version. So it's nice to get the trailer for that. And then we got, and I have to talk about this because it's so good it could be official. We got that amazing fan edit of The Wheel in Space by Iz Skinner and her partner Steve Skinner, who of course go under the name Tardis Time Girl, who has posted her animation on her YouTube channel. Check out her YouTube channel, Tardis Time Girl, if you're not aware of it. She does have it on YouTube, where they've animated the 4 missing episodes of The Wheel in Space. It is a phenomenally good animation. One of the best fan projects I have ever seen for Doctor Who. Honestly, the only thing I could think of to rank above it, right off the top of my head, would be Confession Dial's 2nd Doctor Regeneration, which we'll touch on again, and the 6th Doctor Regeneration that Confession Dial's done, which are just phenomenal pieces of work. But I think this is right behind it. Again, I think this animation is phenomenally good. Very good. Like, I would pay money for it. If the BBC would officially release it on DVD, Blu-ray, Steelbook, I would pay money for it. And the fact it's gotten pretty much universal praise. Now, part of that is because it is a fan project. I'm not blind to the fact that because it's a fan project, it gets universal praise. If they had announced an official release for it, there would be some more criticism. I think most people would still like it. I still think it would be, being looked at very favorably by most of the fandom. But there's a big difference between releasing something for free on the internet as a fan project and turning around and asking people to pay money for it. As soon as you start trying to get people to pay money for it is when people start becoming more critical of it. So I do think you would see a little more critical pushback on it if they were trying to get money. If it was being released as an official product from parts of the fandom, people would be giving a little more critical eye. Now, that's not me personally. As I said, I would easily buy a commercial release of it. I know some people have said it's pretty good, do a little polishing up for it. They might need a little polishing here or there. I could pick out a couple nitpicks, people walking up and down stairs, stuff like that. I mean, if they wanted to polish it up a little, fine. But honestly, you could release it as is on a DVD, a Blu-ray, a Steelbook. I'd buy it. If the Steelbook art was good, I'd buy the limited edition Steelbook. I like Steelbooks. I'm really impressed with what they did there. And I find it commercially viable product. Again, I understand there would be more criticisms from parts of the fandom. I get that. Just like, say, how, you know, there's some criticism about the art from the Savages not looking as good as some of the other animations, whereas if the Savages had been made exactly the same way as a fan project and released online, everybody would be much more positive about it. It would probably have, you know, practically universal acclaim. But again, when you start asking money for stuff, people look at things a little more critically. I really liked the likenesses on the Wheel in Space animation. Like how Troughton looks like Troughton, for the most part. I mean, Troughton's face, I think, is really hard to do. I think most of the animations have a little trouble with him. But, like, you look at Jamie and Victoria and a lot of the guest cast, and it's just nailed. They nail it. The Skinners just nail the likenesses there, and that really lends a lot for it to me. And the fact that everything looks so good, you can almost forget you're watching a recreation. I'm not saying you will forget, but you could almost forget, especially with the backgrounds and the sets and everything. It's so well done. I consider Wheel in Space complete now. I'm fine. Like, I really wish one of my subscribers, I'm willing to bet someone is too, is clever enough that they could burn that on a DVD for me, print out a little official looking Doctor Who sleeve, and mail it to me. You know, something I could put on my shelf, be it the Region 1 American version or the Region 2 British version, because I do have some of the British DVDs down here. You guys have seen in other videos. They're just kind of out of camera shot. You know, I've got my DVDs here on the bottom. I would love to get, like, some kind of copy of that, of kind of official looking, on DVD, where I could have it down here on the shelf next to my other Doctor Who DVDs, because I'd love to own it. It's such a good recreation. I'd love for somebody to send me that. So I've got to give my hats off to that Wheel in Space animation, because as far as I'm concerned, Wheel in Space is animated. BBC doesn't need to bother with it. BBC just needs to give the Skinners some money, put it out officially, and I still think it would sell well. And it would complete Season 5, and they could get us our Season 5 box set, and we could finally have a Troughton on the shelf, which we need. Moving on, we also had the announcement of the Savages, which is interesting. And that is one of the ones I figured being likely. I had mentioned there was a couple outside chances, like maybe Mythmakers or Space Pirates, but the three, I said, and even in a recent video, just not long before Savages was announced, I mentioned the three I figured were coming were Wheel in Space, Smugglers, and Savages. And the main two I figured were Smugglers and Savages, which are two of the ones I've never seen, though I've read the book for Smugglers. Smugglers, of course, had been rumored for a couple of years, although that might have gotten mixed up with the BFI colorization they did, where they colorized the surviving clips. And then Savages seemed a logical choice, because I had heard, ever since Galaxy 4 came out, a lot of people had theorized Savages might be the next Hartnell, because apparently it's easy to do. I'm guessing it's not a lot of different locations. I'm guessing a kind of closed set, not a lot of characters, not really any costume changes. And it sounds like the audio's in pretty good condition. So it seemed easy to do. That's the one I kept hearing bantied around. And that is one of the things, of course, they look for when doing these is, you know, which one of these would be the easiest to do from a production standpoint. And Savages always seemed at the top of that list. So I wasn't surprised when Savages was announced. I'd kind of called that as one of the most likely ones. I'm looking forward to it because I've never seen it. It's one of the reasons I had held off watching the Savages or reading the Savages, was because I wanted to see if it was the announcement. Same reason while I've read Smugglers, I haven't watched the recon from Smugglers. I'm probably going to do that soon, actually, because I wanted to see which one was announced, because I was going to wait for the animation. And then the trailer for it looked okay. Looked kind of like Underwater Menace, which is not as good as some of the ones we've had in the past, like Macroterra, Faceless Ones, or Evil of the Daleks. But I do think it looks better than some of the others, like, say, Web of Fear Episode 3 and Fury from the Deep, which I found disappointing. It looks okay. I'm not going to really judge it until I've actually watched the whole thing, which I'll watch the color version, the black and white version, and the recon. That's just how I am, especially since it's only a 4-parter. I still think I'm having some problems with Hartnell's likeness. I think Hartnell's likeness might also be kind of hard to do. I do think Dodo and Steven look good, though. And I am looking forward to getting it out. I enjoyed the trailer, and I'm happy to have the announcement. And then, of course, we had trailers and stuff and hints dropping for Joy to the World, the Christmas special with Shudigatwa, You know, they had little clips playing from that, so you kind of had an idea what was going on there. You know, basically a hotel chain that discovered time travel with a T-Rex involved. Seemed interesting. Stephen Moffat coming back. Seemed like Stephen Moffat being Stephen Moffat. I was keeping an open mind for that. And then, of course, we had the leak for Season 7 drop. Now, a lot of us had known for a while Season 7 was coming. That was a pretty strong rumor. I'd called that several times in several videos throughout the year. We knew they had been doing restoration work for Season 7. Some pictures had popped up online from, I can't remember if it's Peter Crocker or who it was. Someone doing some of the color restoration. Some images had popped up online there. And I'd seen those. And then we finally, of course, got the artwork leak. Again, basically just confirming what a lot of us had already assumed. I'd been calling Season 7 for a while now, as you guys know. I love the art for Season 7. I love that cover art. It's probably my favorite Pertwee cover art. I love the Nestine Consciousness heart in the back with the green and the yellow, him holding the meteorite. I do feel like, as a couple other people have mentioned, that the meteorite does pull a little focus from Pertwee because it's so big and glowing that it does pull all the attention goes straight to the orb instead of Pertwee, which is different. Usually the Doctor is the main focus of the front art. Here it's the orb, which is interesting. I don't necessarily think bad, just interesting and different. The orb's really big. And I like the colors involved. I love the expression on John's face. That's definitely my favorite facial expression for John we've got on these. It's probably my favorite. Excuse me. It's probably my favorite Pertwee cover art we've gotten so far. It looks really good. The colors really pop on it. And then, of course, about 2 days later, we did get the official announcement for Season 7 and everything coming with it. I wasn't really surprised that there were no updated effects. Really, the only one I thought that needed them was Ambassadors of Death, although there's a few things you could do with Silurians. But I don't think anything just desperately needed it, really. I more wanted the budget for this one to go to the restoration. I think that's what's happened. I do think some of us at a quick glance might say that the extras on this one look a little more scarce. Kind of like some of the other seasons, like Season 2 and Season 15, some people might argue. Part of this could just be us getting spoiled because the Season 20 and the Season 25 box sets were just packed to the gills. I mean, there's so much stuff on the Season 20 and Season 25 box sets. Those anniversary years, they really went all out with those. And so some of the others feel shorter by comparison. I mean, go back and look at Season 12 for comparison. The very first one, it's actually a little bare bones when you think about it. I think the main selling point are the updated effects for Remembrance and the interview with Tom, the in-conversation with Tom. I mean, there's a few other little things, but it really doesn't have a lot like you might remember it having if you go back and look at it. And it's only 6 discs as well, unlike most of the other sets, which are 7, 8, even 9 discs now. But I still like the stuff that's included. I mean, it makes sense why there's less. One, most of the principal people involved with Season 7 are sadly no longer with us. 2, I do think correctly, most of the money went to the restoration work because, of course, Season 7 is heavily impacted by the junking policy of the BBC, with most of the episodes not being their original video masters. Really, all you have is Spearhead from Space, which, of course, is the original film, the original film cans of it, because Spearhead, of course, was shot entirely on film. That original film still exists, so all of the original film for it is still there. And, of course, Episode 1 of Ambassadors of Death is the original video master. It's the earliest surviving original video master in all of Doctor Who, actually. So those look good, but all of the other episodes, all 7 episodes of Silurians, all 7 episodes of Inferno, and episodes 2 through 7 of Ambassadors are recovered from other sources, and especially Silurians and Ambassadors did look rough on their DVD. They really needed restoration work, and I hope they did more with Inferno as well. Inferno, of course, had a special edition release, which greatly improved its visual effects, but I really hope they've touched Inferno up even more. I really want Inferno to pop. I love Inferno, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what they've done with the restoration work. That's where most of the money, I think, is gone. I think that's where most of the money needed to go, is making these episodes look as good as budget and current technology will allow. That's what I want. But I like the other stuff. I'm looking forward to the In Conversation with John Levine, because John Levine's definitely a character, let's be honest. I'm looking forward to the Behind the Sofa, especially with Katie there. I love Katie Manning. And of course, I'm always happy to have Janet and Sarah back, but I love me some Katie Manning. And it's nice that they have Jeffrey Beavers and Daisy Ashford there as well. So I just tend to love Behind the Sofa anyway. So I'm really looking forward to those things. I want to see the tribute to the Brigadier. I want to see the science fiction documentary. So the stuff they have, I am interested in. And I'm curious to watch the omnibus versions of Silurians and Inferno, which these aren't reconstructions of like ones from the 70s. Like these are brand new original edits just for this box set, kind of in the vein of the old ones. Kind of like what they did with Silver Nemesis on season 25. Just kind of, if they had done these back then, maybe they would have been like this, which definitely means when the season 13 box set comes out, we've got to get that Seeds of Doom cut that Douglas Camfield thought about doing at one time. They still have his camera script from that. We've got to get that omnibus just to have it. So I am looking forward to watching especially the Silurians one. I'm curious to see what they do with the Silurians one. The Inferno one, I'm not as much looking forward to, simply because I think Inferno is perfectly balanced at 7 parts. I don't think there's anything you need to edit there. But I will watch it just because I'm curious to see what they did with it. I think it's going to be interesting. So really happy about the Season 7 announcement. It's one of the greatest seasons in all of Doctor Who. Season 7 and 10 are easily my favorite Pertwees. It's really hard to pick between them. I used to be, I'd say Season 10. I'm leaning more towards Season 7 now, but it's really hard to pick. But I'm really looking forward to getting that in. Then, of course, we actually did have the airing of the War Games in color, which I've seen and I enjoyed. I've done a video on that. If you haven't seen that, check that out. I enjoyed it. I still prefer the original version because, again, I love the pacing of the original, but I liked the color edit of the War Games. It's a nice alternate take. See, I'm a little kinder toward these colorizations because they're not replacing the originals. I mean, the physical media releases of them even come with the originals. The Daleks in color and the War Games come with the original versions. So they're not trying to replace them. They're just an alternate way to view them. Much like the omnibus cuts, much like the trial of the Tardis cuts, much like the optional updated effects that stories have. You choose whether you watch those versions or not. The colorization looks phenomenal in the War Games. I am highly impressed with how good the color works. My hat's off to Rich and his team for how well the colorization is done on these. Like, you can forget you're watching a colorization at this point. And just to see how much it's improved from the Daleks in color. The Daleks in color colorization looks good, but I always knew I was watching a black and white story that had been recolored. It goes for that kind of 60s Technicolor look, kind of like the Cushing movie. Whereas this, like, there's a lot of scenes where if you didn't know it was originally black and white, I don't think you'd know. It looks that good. The music choices are hit or miss, but I like them far more often than I don't. Now, them kind of hinting at the Master and the War Chief being the same person was a little heavy-handed. I'm not saying I'm against the idea. I'm saying I tend to like that to be ambiguous. I like the ambiguous nature of that myself. Because I think from a legal standpoint, I'm pretty sure he can't. Because I'm pretty sure the estates of Malcolm Hope and Terrence Dix probably own the War Chief since they wrote him for that story, whereas the Master is considered a BBC creation by Barry Letts and Barry Letts and Uncle Terrence. So the BBC owned the Master, whereas I'm guessing the estates of Malcolm and Terrence own the War Chief. So I'm thinking from a legal standpoint, they can't be the same person. Maybe I'm wrong. But it felt a little heavy-handed, the Sims Master theme. I didn't mind that happening the first time it happens, when the Doctor and the War Chief see each other and recognize each other. I didn't mind it that first time. I was okay with it. It's kind of when it happened by the third or fourth time, I was a bit annoyed. And then when the War Chief gets killed and his body's being dragged off, if you listen, you can kind of hear the regeneration energy in the background, which I didn't really care for because you don't see him glowing and he's still laying there later. It just, But overall, the edit is okay. I mean, you can tell, especially having seen the original, it's a little rough, especially in the middle part. It gets a little rough and choppy at times, and it feels like there's something missing at times. But I don't really blame Benjamin. I feel like Benjamin was giving, he was given a memo saying, we need this at 90 minutes, and he had to find a way to make it work at 90 minutes. And I think he finds a way that makes it work. I think it works. I think it's effective. I think while you can tell that the editing in some places is a little rushed, I still think it makes for an enjoyable watch. And so my hat's off to him for pulling that off. Would I like it to have been half an hour longer, or even 15 minutes longer? Sure, of course. I think even an extra 15 minutes would have helped it a lot, but I still find it an enjoyable watch. I like the regeneration scene, which is, of course, is Confession Dial's regeneration scene. And except I actually think Confession Dial is made up of multiple people, but they have tweaked it a little bit to match better with the episode, but it still looks really good, and how it leads into Spearhead from Space is absolutely fantastic. So I really enjoyed that version of the War Games a lot. I still prefer the original, but I like what they did there. I would definitely enjoy getting more of these colorizations. I'll put it that way. If anyone from the team, if Benjamin or Rich or anyone involved sees this video, I would love to get more of those. And then I did watch Joy to the World, which I enjoyed most of. I didn't really care for the ending. It kind of felt stretched out. But I mean, it's a Christmas story, much like A Christmas Carol. It's going to have that kind of fairy tale ending, which to me, the new era of Doctor Who is kind of a more fantasy thing going on anyway, but it does kind of have that nice, happy ending. It kind of feels a little stretched out. It did kind of pull it down for me. I liked a lot going into that ahead of time, though. I do like Ncuti Gatwa's performance, and I do enjoy the 15th Doctor a lot in this story. The Joy to me is nothing against the actress playing her. I don't really know her, but the character of Joy to me is just... I much liked the other girl that he hangs out with, the girl that works in the hotel. I liked her a lot, and I liked the rapport between her and the Doctor. I really liked that. It was kind of nice seeing the Doctor having to live a normal life for a year. I did enjoy that. The bit with the Silurian was unnecessary. I hate what modern Doctor Who's done with the Silurians. It's really ruined them. I'm not saying Warriors of the Deep was doing them any favors, but the modern series really ruined them. I don't like that redesign at all. There's really no reason to have a Silurian in this, but they just did it to do it. They did it to do it. Sure. But I do like the ideas of the story behind it, like the hotel with time travel. That's very much a Moffat idea of, that locked door in the hotel, you always wonder what it's there for. I like that. I like when Moffat takes one of those just little eccentricities of life that we don't really think much about, and he does something interesting with them. I always give my hats off to him for that. Sometimes he can be a little too clever for his own good, but I think for the most part, he pulls off what he's doing here. And I did enjoy this episode. It's a 6 out of 10 for me, maybe 6.5. A little, I enjoyed it. I could see myself going back and rewatching it, though the end of it, I'd be like... And then the Bethlehem stuff with the North Star at the end, I will admit I was rolling my eyes. It doesn't stick the landing. It's kind of like the opposite of Greatest Show in the Galaxy. Most of it's pretty good, doesn't stick the landing. Whereas Greatest Show in the Galaxy, the first half or so is not very good. Then the third episode, it gets good, and the fourth episode sticks the landing. It's like the anti-Greatest Show in the Galaxy. First part's really good, though. So, yeah, it's been a strong year for Doctor Who for me. I really enjoyed it. We already know stuff next year we have to look forward to. We know we're getting the Savages late March, if it doesn't get pushed back. I'm excited about that because I've never seen the Savages. That'll be fun for me. The Season 7 box set I expect to drop late February, early March. Super excited about that. Always happy to add another collection set to the shelf, but especially a 70s set, because 70s Doctor Who is my jam, my golden era, especially Season 7. Happy to get that. Looking to see what's next. Of course, we will probably get a second collection box set, which I think will either be Season 21, Another Tom, or Season 1. I'd be happy with any of those. Go ahead and give me 21. Finish out the 80s. Finish out 5 and 6. Give me Season 1 to give me another 60s set on the shelf. I'm cool with getting another Hartnell before Troughton if I have to. I think Season 1's ready, other than the fact, well, depending on how the restoration work's going along. That's a lot of episodes to do restoration work on, but they're not animated Marco Polo anytime soon, and Reign of Terror has already been animated, gets missing episodes, so go ahead and give it to me. I'm fine with that. Give me Season 1. Or give me another Tom, because I will never argue with another Tom Baker. Love me some Tom Baker. So I'll take 13 or 16, either one. I'm not picky. Would prefer 13, but I'm cool with 16. And then curious to see if we will get maybe another 3D animation next year. I don't know if Shapeshifter Studio maybe has been engaged to do another 3D animation. I'm curious to see what's next. There are some of the stories left that lend themselves better to 3D animation. Master Plan would be like that. Crusade would be like that. Marco Polo would be like that. I don't see those three coming anytime soon because the Season 2 box set's already out. Marco Polo would be difficult. Dallas Master Plan would be difficult. But you could do 3D animation for some of the others, like, say, the Highlanders or the Space Pirates. Personally, I prefer 2D for the Space Pirates, but I could definitely see 3D being a good one for the Highlanders, and I would love to get the Highlanders in 3D. I love the Highlanders. I've read the novelization. I've seen the recon. Love the Highlanders. I'm a huge fan of Jamie McCrimmon, too. He's one of my top 5 favorite companions. Would love to get his first story. So would be happy to see if maybe Shapeshifter Studios is involved with another animation they're working on. And then perhaps even late in the year, get an announcement for the next 2D animation. We'll see. I think we wouldn't get a 2D animation until probably late 2026. So if we get animation news, it'd probably be not from BBC Studios, but from another company. And of course, we have Season 2 to look forward to. I still haven't watched the trailer on that. I know there's a trailer out for Season 2. The Shoot He Got was Season 2. I haven't watched the trailer. Got to watch the trailer on that. And I'm curious to see. If at a guess, I think Season 2 will be a mixed bag. There will probably be episodes I like and episodes I don't, is what I suspect. I don't remember how many episodes Season 2 is. I figure it's either 8 or 10. I don't remember. But I am looking forward to it. Again, Ncuti Gatwa, there are times he is very good in the role. I don't always agree with how the 15th Doctor is written, but when he's written well, I think Ncuti Gatwa executes the character really well on screen. So, that is my thoughts on 2024 and my thoughts on looking forward to 2025. I want to know what you think of 2024, the year in review for Doctor Who. What you liked, what you didn't, and whether you think it gets a passing grade. Comment down below, and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There is a link to that down in the description below. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. I love getting fan mail. It always puts a smile on my face. Watch any of my unboxing videos. I'm always a very, very happy Doctor Who fan. I also have an Amazon wish list and an Amazon UK wish list, and I have links to those down in the description below with several things I'm interested in. If there's anything you would like to purchase and send to me from that, check those out. And then I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, and Unknown289. I really appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and my YouTube members. It's very much appreciated. Most importantly, thank you for watching.